Lance. The gunshot echoed across the canyon just as Jake Morrison finished hauling water from the creek. He dropped the buckets and grabbed his rifle, scanning the ridgeline. 3 riders appeared through the dust, their horses lathered and wild-eyed. Behind them, a 4th horse carried a slumped figure, Lance. Jake chambered around. Strangers meant trouble this far from town, Lance. The lead rider pulled up hard, his mount nearly collapsing. "They're coming," the man gasped. Lance, "Whole war party, maybe 20. Jake's jaw tightened. Lance. The other 2 riders circled nervously, one clutching a bleeding arm. The slumped figure on the 4th horse was a young Apache woman, her hands bound, face bruised and swollen. Lance, "What did you do?" Jake asked, his voice flat. "Found her wandering near Silver Creek," the wounded man said. Lance. "Figured we'd get a reward." Jake spat into the dirt. "You kidnapped her. Now her people want her back, along with your scalps." The riders exchanged glances. Lance. The leader jerked his thumb toward the woman. "She's yours, Lance. We're riding for Fort Collins." "Wait," Jake started, but they were already wheeling their horses around. The Apache woman slid from her saddle, hitting the ground hard. The riders didn't look back as they thundered away, leaving a trail of dust toward the eastern pass. Jake approached slowly, rifle lowered, but ready. Lance. The woman pushed herself up, eyes blazing despite the blood on her face. She couldn't have been more than 19. Lance. Her deerskin dress was torn and rope burns marked her wrists where she'd been yanking against her bonds. He cut the ropes with his belt knife. Lance. She jerked away, stumbling toward the creek. "Easy," he said. Lance. "I'm not going to hurt you." She whirled, speaking rapid Apache. He caught maybe 1 word in 5. Lance. His knowledge of the language came from trading posts and a winter spent recovering in an Apache camp years ago, but she was speaking too fast, too desperate. Lance. Then she switched to broken English. "They come." Lance. "Kill you. Kill me." Lance. She pointed at the ridge. "I cannot go back." Lance. "They think I betray them. I cannot stay here." Lance. "They find me." Her voice cracked. Lance. "I cannot live alone." Jake heard it then. The distant drum of hoofbeats. Lance. Not from the east where the kidnappers fled, but from the north. The war party. Lance. He had maybe 5 minutes. His ranch was indefensible. Lance. The cabin had 1 door, 2 windows, and walls that wouldn't stop a determined arrow. The root cellar might work, but they'd burn him out. Lance. The canyon offered cover, but he'd be trapped there for days. The woman grabbed his arm. Lance, please. They kill us both now. Jake made his decision. Lance. He ran for the cabin, the woman following. Whatever happened next, he'd opened his door to her. Lance. Now they'd face it together. The hoofbeats grew louder. Lance. Jake shoved the woman toward the cabin. Get inside. Lance. Stay low. She hesitated at the threshold, eyes darting between him and the approaching dust cloud. Now, he barked. Lance. She disappeared into the darkness. Jake grabbed his spare ammunition from the shed, stuffing boxes into his pockets. Lance. His mind raced through options. Fight and die. Run and die slower. Surrender and definitely die. Lance. The hoofbeat stopped. Silence rolled across the ranch like a held breath. Lance. Jake positioned himself behind the water trough, rifle aimed at the main approach. Sweat ran down his spine despite the cool morning air. Lance. A voice called out in Apache. Jake recognized maybe half the words. Lance. Something about honor. Something about returning what was stolen. Lance. The woman appeared in the doorway. I will go. Lance. You live. Get back inside, Jake hissed. They want me. Lance. Not you. They'll kill you. Yes. Her voice was steady, but quick. Lance. They burn. Before Jake could respond, an arrow thudded into the trough 3 inches from his head. The message was clear. Lance. Last chance, the voice called in heavily accented English. Give girl. Lance. You go. And Jake's throat was dry. Lance. He'd seen what Apache warriors did to people who wronged them. The woman was already dead if he handed her over. Lance. But so was he if he didn't. The woman stepped fully outside, hands raised. Lance. What are you doing? Jake demanded. You showed kindness. Lance. I do not repay with your death. She walked forward slowly. Something in Jake snapped. Glance. Maybe it was the resignation in her voice. Maybe it was the memory of the Apache family who'd saved him during that winter, feeding him and nursing his frost-bitten feet. Lance. Maybe it was just pure, stubborn Texas pride. He stepped out from behind the trough. Lance. She stays, he called out. The woman froze. Lance. You are fool. Probably. Jake kept his rifle down but ready. But those men who took her, Lance, they're the ones you want. She was their prisoner, same as she's yours now, Lance. A warrior emerged from behind a boulder, then another. 6 in total, though Jake suspected more lurked in the rocks. Lance. Their leader was older, scarred, with eagle feathers woven into his long hair. The leader spoke to the woman in Apache, Lance. She responded, her voice shaking but defiant. The exchange grew heated. Ass. She pointed at Jake, then at her torn dress, then at the eastern pass. The leader's expression darkened. Lance. Jake caught fragments. The woman was explaining about the kidnapping. Lance. About the 3 riders. About being bound and beaten. Lance. The leader turned to Jake. You protect her? Yes. Why? Jake had no good answer. Lance. Because those men were cowards. Because she asked for help. The leader studied him for a long moment. Lance. Then he spoke to his warriors. 2 of them lowered their bows reluctantly. Lance. She is my sister's daughter, the leader said. She shamed us. Lance. Lay with white soldier. Ran when discovered. Lance. The woman's head dropped. Those men found her on sacred ground, the leader continued. Lance. Took her like animal. You are right, Lance. We hunt them. He paused. But she still shamed us, Lance. Cannot return. So you'll kill her? That is our law. The woman spoke again, voice barely above a whisper. Lance. Jake didn't need translation. She was begging. Lance. The leader's face was stone. She chose White World. Lance. She lives in White World, or dies here. Lance. Jake's mind whirled. She can stay, work the ranch. Lance. The leader laughed bitterly. You take Apache woman? You are fool and liar, Lance. I need help, Jake said, the lie forming even as he spoke. Ranch is too much for one man, Lance. She works, she earns her keep. That's all, Lance. And when white men come, When they see Apache girl? Jake hadn't thought that far. The nearest town was 40 miles south. Neighbors were few and suspicious. An Apache woman on his ranch would raise questions he couldn't answer. The woman looked at him, hope flickering in her dark eyes. I'll handle it, Jake said. The leader stepped closer, close enough that Jake could see the old knife scars across his chest. You give your word? She works for you? Nothing else? You protect her from white men? Yes. If you break word, we come back. Kill you slow. Understood. The leader turned to his niece and spoke rapidly. She nodded, tears streaming down her face. He reached out, touching her forehead gently, then stepped back. Her name is Ayana. Means eternal bloom. His voice cracked slightly. She is dead to us now. You are her people. The warriors mounted their horses. The leader paused, looking back at Jake. The men who took her. They wear blue coats? No, just drifters. Good. We find them anyway. He kicked his horse into a gallop, and the war party vanished as quickly as they'd appeared. Ayana stood in the yard, shaking. Jake lowered his rifle, suddenly aware of what he'd just done. He'd taken responsibility for an Apache woman whose own people had disowned her. The townspeople would call him an Indian lover at best, a traitor at worst. His neighbors would stop trading with him. The marshal might even come asking questions. Ayana turned to face him. Thank you, she said in careful English. I work hard, Lance. I earned keep. Jake nodded, too overwhelmed to speak. She walked to the creek and knelt, washing the blood from her face. Jake watched her, wondering if he'd just saved her life or condemned them both. The sun climbed higher, indifferent to the choices made below. Whatever came next, there was no going back. Ayana stood, water dripping from her hair, and looked at the cabin that would now be her home. Jake realized he didn't even know what her crime had been. Loving a soldier. In Apache culture, that was enough to destroy everything. The first week passed in careful silence. Ayana slept in the storage room Jake cleared out, a space barely big enough for the bedroll and trunk he provided. She woke before dawn and worked until dark, mucking stalls, hauling water, and mending the fence line that Jake had neglected for months. She never complained. Never asked for anything. Jake found it unsettling. On the 8th day, he rode into town for supplies. The general store owner, a portly man named Henry, greeted him with his usual grin. Jake Morrison. Thought the coyotes got you. Still kicking. Jake set his list on the counter. Henry scanned it, eyebrows rising. 2 of everything? You expecting company? Hired some help? Oh? Henry leaned forward. Anyone I know? Doubt it. Jake paid and loaded the supplies, aware of Henry watching through the window. Small towns bred curiosity like flies on meat. He'd have to be more careful. When he returned to the ranch, Ayana had repaired the chicken coop and somehow coaxed his stubborn mare into letting her apply salve to an infected hoof. The mare, who'd kicked at Jake for 3 days straight, stood docile under Ayana's gentle hands. How'd you do that? Jake asked. Ayana didn't look up. She was frightened. I showed her I would not hurt. That night, Jake cooked beans and cornbread. Lance. Ayanna ate in silence, then washed the dishes without being asked. The routine felt strange, Lance. Not wrong, exactly. Just strange. Lance. You can talk, you know, Jake said. I don't bite. She glanced at him, uncertain. Lance. Tell me about yourself. Where'd you learn English? Mission school. Lance. Before. She dried the last plate. Father wanted me to understand white world. Lance. Said it was coming whether we wanted or not. Smart man, dead man. Her voice was flat. Soldiers killed him when I was 12. Lance. Said he was raiding cattle. He was hunting rabbit. Lance. Jake had no response to that. The violence between settlers and natives was a wound that never healed, both sides bleeding hatred into the soil. Lance. The soldier you loved, Jake ventured. What happened? Ayanna's hands stilled. Lance. His name was Peter, lieutenant at Fort Graham. Lance. He was kind. Brought me books. Lance. Taught me to read better. She set down the dish towel. Lance. We were careful. But my cousin saw us meeting. Lance. Told my uncle. Her voice hardened. Uncle said I betrayed our blood. Lance. Said I was white man's whore. That's not fair. Fair? She laughed bitterly. My people are forced onto reservations. Lance. Our children taken to white schools. Our sacred lands stolen. Lance. And I fall in love with soldier? She shook her head. Maybe Uncle was right. No. Jake's voice was firm. Lance. Love isn't betrayal. Then what is it? Just love. Doesn't care about skin color or whose side you're on. Lance. Ayanna looked at him for a long moment. You are a strange white man, Jake Morrison. 3 weeks later, the trouble Jake had anticipated arrived in the form of Deputy Carl Lewis and 2 ranch hands Jake recognized from the neighboring spread. Lance. They rode up at noon, dust trailing behind them. Jake met them in the yard. Rifle conspicuously absent, but the holster on his hip filled. Lance. Jake, Carl said, tipping his hat. Heard you hired help. That's right. Mind if we meet them? Actually, I do. Carl's expression hardened. Lance. We got reports. Apache girl. Lance. That true? Behind him, Ayanna appeared in the doorway. The ranch hands tensed, hands drifting toward their weapons. Lance. She's my employee, Jake said carefully. Works hard. Lance. Keeps to herself. Jake, you know I like you, Carl said. Lance. But this is trouble. Apache girl on a white ranch? Lance. People are nervous. People need to mind their own business. One of the ranch hands, a young hothead named Danny, spurred his horse forward. Lance? She's a savage, probably scouting for raiders. Jake's hand moved to his pistol. Lance. Back off, Danny. Or what? You gonna shoot me for speaking truth? I'm going to remove you from my property. Lance. One way or another. Carl raised his hand. Lance. Everyone calmed down. He looked at Jake. I need to talk to her. Lance. Ask some questions. Make sure everything's legal. Lance. Legal? Jake's laugh was harsh. You want to talk legal? Let's discuss the 3 men who kidnapped her. Lance. Where's your concern about that? What 3 men? Jake told him. About the riders, the bound girl, the chase. Lance. Carl's face grew troubled. That's a serious accusation, Carl said. Lance. It's the truth. Ask her yourself. Carl dismounted slowly and approached Ayana, Lance. She stood straight, chin up, defiant despite the fear in her eyes. "Miss, I'm Deputy Lewis, Lance. These men who took you, can you describe them?" Ayana described them in halting English. One tall with red beard, Lance. One short and mean with scar on neck. One older, missing fingers on left hand, Lance. Carl's expression shifted. "That sounds like the Burton gang, Lance. They've been wanted for theft and assault across 3 counties." He looked at Jake. "Lance, she pressed charges? Can she?" Jake asked. "Would anyone listen?" Carl was quiet for a moment. "Probably not." He turned back to Ayana. "You being mistreated here?" "No." "He's paying you fair wages?" She glanced at Jake, uncertain. "Lance." Jake jumped in. "Room, board, and monthly pay." "Lance." "Standard arrangement." Carl studied them both, clearly skeptical but finding no clear violation. "Lance." Finally, he sighed. "All right, Lance. But Jake, you're stirring a hornet's nest. People see an Apache woman on your land, they're going to assume things, Lance. Let them assume. Just don't come crying when they burn you out." The deputy and the ranch hands rode off. Jake watched them go, knowing Carl was right. Lance. He'd painted a target on himself. But when he looked at Ayana, still standing tall despite everything, he couldn't regret it. "Lance." She met his eyes. "You did not have to protect me again." "Yeah," Jake said. "Lance, I did." The warnings came subtly at first. A damaged fence that hadn't been damaged before, Lance. Cattle driven into the wrong pasture overnight. A dead chicken left on the porch with its neck wrung, Lance. Jake knew the signs. Someone wanted him scared, Lance. Ayana noticed too, but said nothing. She moved through her work with increased vigilance, always keeping a knife within reach, Lance. Jake started sleeping lighter, pistol under his pillow. The explosion came on a Tuesday night, Lance. Jake woke to Ayana's scream and the smell of smoke. He grabbed his gun and burst from his room to find the storage room engulfed in flames, Lance. Ayana stood in the yard in her nightdress, coughing. "Get back," Jake yelled, running for the water pump, Lance. They fought the fire for 2 hours, bucket after bucket, until finally the flames died to smoldering embers. The storage room was destroyed, Lance. Ayana's few possessions reduced to ash. Jake found the bottle at dawn, Lance. Coal oil. Someone had doused the exterior wall and lit it, Lance. "They tried to kill you," Jake said, fury making his hand shake. Ayana stared at the ruins. "Lance, I bring you only trouble. This isn't your fault. Everything is my fault." Her voice broke. "My people hate me, Lance. Your people hate me. Maybe I should just go, Lance." "Go where?" Jake demanded. "You said it yourself, Lance. You can't live alone." "Then maybe I should not live at all." Jake grabbed her shoulders. "Don't talk like that, Lance. Don't you dare." She pulled away. "Why do you care, Lance?" "I am nothing. Nobody, Lance. You're not nothing." The words came out rougher than he intended. "You're brave. You work harder than any hand I've ever hired. You're smart and kind, and you deserve better than any of this." Ayana stared at him, tears on her cheeks. Jake released her, suddenly aware of how close they stood. Lance. Sorry, Lance. You matter. All right? She nodded slowly. Lance. That afternoon, Jake rode into town again. This time, he went straight to the sheriff's office. Glance. Sheriff William Grant was older than Carl, with gray hair and a reputation for fairness that Jake hoped was earned. Someone tried to burn my house down, Jake said without preamble. Lance. Grant looked up from his paperwork. Anyone hurt? No. Lance. But they were targeting my hired help, the Apache girl. Word traveled fast. Jake nodded. Lance. Someone's trying to run her off or kill her. Lance. You got proof? Jake showed him the coal oil bottle. Grant examined it, frowning. Lance. Could be anyone, Grant said. Could be kids playing pranks. Kids don't commit arson. No. Grant set down the bottle. Lance. But scared people do stupid things. You brought an Apache woman onto your land right after the Henderson raid. Lance. People are nervous. The Henderson raid was 50 miles north. Lance. Different tribe entirely. People don't make those distinctions. Grant leaned back. Look, Jake. Lance. I'm sympathetic, but I can't protect you from community sentiment. Lance. Best advice? Send the girl away. No. Lance. Then watch your back. Grant's tone wasn't unkind, because whoever did this will try again. Jake left feeling more alone than ever. Lance. The law wouldn't help. His neighbors were either hostile or indifferent. Lance. He and Ayanna were on their own. When he returned to the ranch, he found Ayanna constructing a makeshift bed in the barn. Lance. What are you doing? Jake asked. Making space. Cannot sleep in house. Why not? Not proper. Jake almost laughed. After everything, she was worried about propriety. Ayanna, someone tried to kill you last night. Lance. I'm not letting you sleep in a barn where anyone can walk in. People already talk. Let them talk. He softened his voice. You can have my room, Lance. I'll sleep in the main area. No, I cannot take your bed, Lance. Then we'll both be uncomfortable. Jake dragged his mattress into the main room, setting it near the fireplace. There, Lance. Now neither of us is being improper. Ayanna watched him, something shifting in her expression. Why do you do this, Lance? Really? Jake sat on the mattress, suddenly exhausted. You asked me that before. You did not answer. I don't know, he admitted. Lance. Maybe because I'm tired of all the hate. Tired of people killing each other over lines on maps. Lance. Tired of good people suffering because they fell in love with the wrong person. He met her eyes. Lance. Maybe I'm just tired of being alone. Ayanna sat beside him, careful to maintain distance. I am tired too. They sat in silence as the sun set, painting the sky orange and red. Lance. Outside, the horses nickered softly. The ranch felt small and fragile against the vastness of the territory. Lance. My mother used to say that loneliness is like winter, Ayanna said quietly. Cold and hard. Lance. But spring always comes. New growth, Lance. New possibilities. Your mother sounds wise. She was. Ayanna's voice caught Lance. She died on the trail to the reservation. Fever took her in 3 days. Lance. Jake wanted to reach out to comfort her, but didn't know if it would be welcome. I'm sorry. Everyone is sorry, Lance, but sorry does not bring them back. She stood abruptly. I should sleep, Lance. Tomorrow we rebuild. She disappeared into Jake's room, closing the door softly. Lance. Jake lay on his mattress, staring at the ceiling beams. The house creaked and settled around him. Lance. Somewhere in the night, a coyote howled. He thought about what Grant had said. Lance, watch your back. The threat wasn't over, Lance. Whoever set that fire would come again, and next time, they might not be so careless. Jake checked his pistol, making sure it was loaded and within reach. Lance. Then he closed his eyes, knowing sleep would be elusive. Protecting Ayanna had become more than duty, Lance. It had become something else entirely, something that scared him more than any fire or hostile neighbor, Lance. He was starting to care about her. Really care, Lance. And in this territory, at this time, that was the most dangerous thing of all. The second attack came 2 weeks later, but this time Jake was ready. Lance. He'd hired old Marcus from town, a former tracker who owed Jake a favor. Marcus spent 3 nights hidden in the rocks above the ranch, watching Lance. On the 4th night, he woke Jake with a low whistle. 3 riders, Marcus whispered. Lance. Coming from the west, got torches. Jake roused Ayanna, who grabbed her knife without question. Lance. They'd prepared for this, laying out weapons and planning escape routes. But Jake was done running. Lance. Stay in the house, he told her. If shooting starts, use the rifle. Lance. Aim for center mass. I am not helpless. I know. Lance. But I need you alive. The riders approached cautiously, clearly expecting the element of surprise. Jake let them get close, then stepped out with his rifle leveled and Marcus appearing from the shadows with his shotgun. Lance. That's far enough, Jake called. The riders pulled up short. Lance. Jake recognized 2 of them. Lance. Danny from the neighboring ranch and his older brother Kyle. The third was a stranger, hard-faced and mean. Lance. Morrison, Kyle said, forcing casualness. Out late. Could say the same about you. With torches. On my land. Lance. Just passing through. With torches, Jake repeated. Same kind that nearly killed my employee 2 weeks ago. Kyle's expression hardened. Lance. You need to understand something. That Apache girl brings trouble. Lance. Already got the Henderson place spooked, thinking raids are coming. You want blood on your hands? Only blood I see is you 3 trying to spill it. Danny lurched forward. Lance. We should have burned you both the first time. Kyle grabbed his brother's arm, but the damage was done. Marcus raised his shotgun higher. Lance. That's confession enough for me, Marcus said. Sheriff's going to be interested in this. The stranger spoke for the first time, his voice carrying a threat. Lance. Old man, you don't want this fight. Maybe not, but I'm having it anyway. Marcus didn't flinch. Lance. Jake kept his rifle steady. Here's what's going to happen, Lance. You 3 are going to ride out. You're going to tell your friends that Ayanna stays under my protection, Lance. Anyone comes after her again, I'm coming after them. Kyle laughed bitterly. Lance, you and what army? Me, a voice called from the darkness. Jake's heart sank as Ayanna stepped into the firelight, rifle in hand. Lance. And me, another voice added. Sheriff Grant emerged on horseback, his deputy Carl beside him. Lance. Jake's surprise must have shown because Grant smiled grimly. Marcus sent word earlier, Grant explained. Lance figured if he was watching your place, something was about to happen. He looked at the three riders. Well? Kyle's jaw worked. Lance, this is wrong. Having an Apache on a white ranch. Lance, what's wrong is attempted murder, Grant said. Twice now. Lance, I'm taking you three in. On what evidence? The stranger demanded. Lance, confession from young Danny here. Lance, testimony from Marcus and Jake. And the fact that you're on private property at midnight with torches? Lance, Grant's voice went cold. Don't make this harder than it needs to be. The three riders exchanged glances. Lance. For a moment, Jake thought they might fight. Then Kyle's shoulders sagged. Lance. Let's go, he muttered. Carl dismounted and bound their hands while Grant kept his gun ready. Lance. As they led the prisoners away, Grant paused beside Jake. This doesn't end it, he said quietly. Lance. There will be others who think like them. I know, but maybe word will spread that you're not someone to mess with. Grant nodded toward Ayana. She's got courage standing out here like that. After they left, Jake rounded on Ayana. Lance, I told you to stay inside. You said you needed me alive. I said same about you, Lance. Her eyes flashed. You do not protect me alone. I protect too. Lance. Marcus chuckled. She's got spirit. Lance. I'll give her that. Jake wanted to argue but found he couldn't. Lance. She was right. They protected each other now. Lance. That's what this had become. The next morning, something unexpected happened. Lance. Mary Henderson from the northern ranch rode up with a basket of food. She was a widow, running her late husband's spread with the help of her grown sons. Lance. Heard about last night, she said, handing the basket to Ayana. Wanted you to know not everyone around here is hateful. Ayana took the basket, clearly stunned. Lance. Thank you. My husband was killed in a raid 10 years ago, Mary continued. I hated Apache for a long time. Lance. Then I realized hate was just eating me alive. Wasn't hurting anyone but myself. Lance. She looked at Jake. You're doing a brave thing. Stupid, maybe, but brave. After Mary left, more visitors came. Lance. Not many, but enough. Lance. A farmer who traded eggs for fence repair. A merchant from town who needed help with bookkeeping and heard Ayana could read and write. Lance. Slowly, carefully, acceptance began to grow. Lance. It wasn't perfect. Suspicion still followed Ayana in town. Lance. Some stores refused her service. Children threw rocks once, until Jake had a stern conversation with their parents. Lance. But the violence stopped. The threats faded. Lance. 6 months after that first desperate plea at his door, Jake and Ayana sat on the porch watching sunset paint the mountains. I thought I would die that day, Ayana said softly. Lance. Thought I had no place in this world. You have a place. Jake's voice was steady, right here. She looked at him and Jake saw something in her eyes he'd been afraid to name. Lance. Something he felt too, growing slowly like spring grass after winter. Jake Morrison, she said. Lance. You saved my life, but you did more than that, Lance. You gave me reason to live. He reached out, hesitating. Lance? She took his hand. I can't promise it will be easy, Jake said. Lance. People will talk. Some will hate us. Lance. Let them. Ayana squeezed his hand. I learned something, Lance. Being alone is not about having no people around. It is about having no one who truly sees you. Lance. She met his eyes. You see me? Yeah, Jake said. Lance, I do. They sat as darkness fell, two people who shouldn't have found each other but did anyway. The ranch stood solid around them, no longer just shelter but home. Lance, whatever tomorrow brought, they would face it together. Neither of them would live alone again.